Welcome back to Market Day Report. I'm Scott Shelley, otherwise known as the Cow Guy. Had a week off, got a haircut, all spiffed up, ready to go. And it seems like every Monday morning I come in, the world is ending again. So we've got the Dow down hard again. We've got some worries with the economy. We've got some worries with some administration bills on the Hill. We've got some worries with Omicron. We'll find out if they're founded. But that doesn't matter because the market reacts to them anyway. So let's see how the markets are reacting so far today. What did corn do overnight? Well, it was down 2 1/4 cents that March contract at 5.91 even. We had been as low as 5.87. We have May was down 2 3/4 cents overnight at 5.91 1/2. Moving right along, let's take a look at what's going on in that soybean trade overnight. This one's bucking the trend a little bit, right? With that Jan contract up 4 cents at 12.89 1/4. March is up 3, 12.91 1/2. Then we had let's see what Chicago wheat was doing. Last I reckon, when we were on the radio, it was a little easier, actually about 8 or 9 cents lower. Here we go, 10 3/4 cents lower in that March contract, 7.64 1/4, while May is off 10 1/4 cents as well. Let's move along to see what happens in Kansas City. We'll be talking a lot about that today. March is off 6 3/4 cents at 8.03 1/4. Boy, we had been 10 cents lower at some point last night. May is off 6 1/4 cents at 8.04. Spring wheat, let's see what's happening there. That's Minneapolis. That's going to be lower by 8 1/4 cents in that March contract. 10.14 1/4, while May's at 10.03 3/4. That's down 8 1/4 cents as well. And while we're at it, we'll take a quick peek at cotton. What's that doing? We're off $1.41 in that March contract at 105.89. Let's bring in Brian Hoops from Midwest Market Solutions. Brian, good morning. Happy holidays. We don't get a chance to talk that often. But when I'm sitting in this chair in the morning, sometimes it seems like the world's always ending. I don't know why, but we've got some. I tell you what, I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to give you the floor. You can argue with me, and that's fine. But you know, it's going to be Omicron is really going to be the headline. However, that's going to be the Trojan horse. I think we still have some worries about the economy and what the Fed had to say last week. But I'm going to hand it over to you and see what you're going to be talking to your customers about this morning, because I'd like to hear what you're going to be saying to them.
Well, I think everybody's sick of talking about the Omicron virus and virus in particular. So they want to talk about weather. They want to talk about basis and, and tight supplies of the markets. That's what they want to talk about. Certainly, I think concerns about the economy driving crude oil prices lower this morning. That's dragging corn down as well. The wheat futures turning lower, dragging corn off of their highs. But soybeans trying to rally off of concerns about weather in South America, Argentina, southern Brazil. They've had a few rain showers, but the forecast is fairly dry, and now it's starting to warm up a little bit as well. So there is a reason to put some premium into the markets because of some weather concerns. And I think that's a valid point. But I've been pointing out to clients and to your listeners this last week that the corn market is very close to inverting itself. May has gone over the July contract, and March is just a few ticks away from doing the same thing over May. And once that happens, that's usually a pretty strong bullish market. We've seen soybean meal invert and really take off and rally over the last several months. And I think corn is getting close to doing that as well. Hopefully, anyway, we move to new highs on Friday, and hopefully we go back up and test those highs. But it may be, into the next week or even the next new year, because we have a holiday shortened trading week this week.
Right, and you make some great points there. And I'd say this: you look at those prices for, say, new crop corn and beans. They don't look too bad for the beginning of this time of year, actually, or going into the spring. So those are pretty healthy points. All right, we're going to go away, pay some bills. We're right back to talk livestock with Brian Hoops after these messages. All right, welcome back to Market Day Report. I'm Scott Shelley, otherwise known as the Cow Guy. You can see I write for a few newspapers at the weekend. You can see some things I put out on Twitter, but it's the best way to follow me is at Scott the Cow Guy. That's Twitter. That's where I put most of the things out. You'll see me do some other hits and the likes, but if you want to get to know me or at least to find out what's been happening, that's the best place that I've got all the information stored in one spot. So at Scott the Cow Guy on Twitter. I am the Cow Guy. Let's see what we did in these livestock markets Friday before we went home for the weekend. Look at this live cattle. It looks as though it was pretty quiet. I wasn't here, but 52 cents lower. Let's not look at that one. 62 cents lower in the Feb contract. Live cattle 136.42 was where we closed. We were 35 cents lower in that April contract. Let's see what feeders did on Friday. They were down hard. Look at this. Jan was down $2.32 at 160.25. March was down $2.62 at 161.70. Kind of close to the lows of the day there. So we'll see how that reacts this morning. But it could be a little bit of a volatile one because of what's been happening in other markets. Let's take a look at lean hogs, how they closed. This was let's call that a mixed board, but really not too far from home here. Feb was higher on the day by 45 cents at 80. April's off a dime at 84.77. Get through those quickly because we want to hear what Brian Hoops has to say. He's with Midwest Market Solutions. He is the man. Brian, what do you think about these livestock markets? What have you been hearing? Any trades, anything that the listeners and viewers would like to hear about?
Well, it was a little disappointing in the cash markets for the cattle last week. We were $2 to $4 lower. I think this week you're probably looking at a steady type market and one that's going to trade early in the week. You have a cattle on feed and a quarterly hog and pig report coming out Thursday afternoon. Then the markets are closed all day on Friday. I think your cash trade in the cattle market anyway gets wrapped up fairly early in the week. That way you can send the cattle buyers home for Christmas and happy a little bit early. But next week, then they'll start looking for full kill schedules, and that could be a strength in the cash market. So this week, I don't think you'll see much in the way of movement. Next week could be a time frame where the cash market finds this bottom and starts to rally in January, and as supplies remain fairly tight.
All right, well, it's a demand question. I mean, we had Goldman Sachs come out last night and downgrade our GDP for next year, or the first, second, and third quarter for 2022. And that obviously would then flow through directly to demand, and that's a little bit of why I think crude oil is off here fairly hard today. What happens to this market, real quick, if we see the demand slump off?
Yeah, that's always been the concern that we've had, and why we've recommended producers look at these contracts. And when we were in the 140 plus range for April and for February, get some put options in place, leave the upside open, but at least protect your downside risk in the cattle market, because we're very concerned about consumer demand fading. Not only do we have expensive gas prices, but also home heating bills are just going to start hitting consumers this month into early part of January, and those are expected to be much higher as well because of natural gas spikes and price increases. So yeah, we're very concerned about the demand for beef and for pork, especially at the retail consumer levels.
Yeah, we've already heard some stories of some of those gas bills coming in already. Right, really appreciate that. That's Brian Hoops from Midwest Market Solutions. He's the president there. Thanks very much. Good Monday morning to you. Good to see you on the show. We're going to bring it back here to Nashville and throw it over to Janet.